Hey guys, welcome to this week's Q&A. We are in Dampier, Western Australia today, and it is about 8 o'clock in the evening here. We decided to put a Q&A out on Tuesday because the boys and the girls were a little bit lazy on the Teen Tuesday, and we wanted to have something to get you through the week. So with that being said, let's jump right into this Q&A and get the questions rolling. First question is coming to us from Mr. James Packard. Jack says, but the sharks. Jack, have you seen any out kiting? Well, Jack's not here right now, James, but yes, we do see sharks out there on the water when we're kiting and foiling. Most of the sharks up here in northwest Australia and Western Australia are duskies, or what they call bronze whalers. Also, we see hammerheads, and you know, there's always the reef sharks, black tips, white tip reef sharks who never mess with us. And there's tiger sharks out here as well. And bull sharks, and basically every kind of shark out here, except there's not great whites up here where we're at right now because there's I think the water's too warm for them, but there's definitely great whites down in southern Australia and Perth and that part of the world. But when we're out kiting, we're always seeing sharks in the water, and we're always very cognizant of that, so we don't want to be running you know, spending too much time in the water in the dusky time, like in the evening late when the visibility gets down, or early in the morning. And we try to stay out of the water if the water's really murky, because you know, sharks don't want to eat humans. They're not out to bite us. They're not out to kill us. They just mistake us for convenient prey, and they take a bite and they move on. So we're always wary of that and always paying attention to our surroundings out here. But great question, James, and thanks for watching the show. Next question is from Mr. Merlin Broadus. Did you have to learn to sail, and would you have bought a cat first? Knowing what you know now. Yes, we had to learn to sail. We'd never been on a sailboat before, and so the sailing was easy. Like I've said many times, it's not, anybody can sail. Anybody can hoist a sail up and get going. It just takes time on the water to learn how to trim a sail and get it going right. What's more important on sailing is when to sail and where to sail. When to sail is based on weather. Where to sail is based on navigation and charts and understanding what's underneath your boat at all times. Great question, and obviously if we could go back and tell my younger self 5 years ago, buy the catamaran. If you're going to live out here on the water long term, and you're going to be sailing the miles we sell and have the size and the gear that we have and we bring, buy the catamaran. Buy the biggest, baddest catamaran you can buy that's comfortable to live on. I mean, if I was 20 years old, I might buy a monohull, but you know, chances are when I was 20, I was broke, didn't have any money, so I could afford a monohull. But at 51 years old, there's no way I'd go back to a monohull and live this life on a monohull. It just would be too tough on me, and maybe that's because I'm a wussy. But anyway, great question, and I appreciate you watching the show. I'll get my old man readers. Next question is from Mike. I don't know what your last name is, Mike, but he's asking, do we have to check in with U.S. Department of State Travel? And what about taxes? Well, Mike, that's a good question. We pay taxes just like anybody else. If we earn money, we owe the government of the United States money, especially if we bring that money back into the United States. So we're taxed just like any other citizen in the U.S., and we have to file tax returns just like any other citizen in the U.S. If we earn money out of the country from offshore entities outside of America, and we leave it outside the country, we don't have to pay taxes in America on that. But if we bring that money back into the States, we do. But leaving that money in a foreign country or a foreign bank, we will probably be liable for taxes to the country that money was earned in, or where that money is at. So there's really no escape. If you're making money and you're making profit, you're going to pay taxes. It's always good to pay taxes. That means you're making money. A great question, and thanks for, and we don't have to check in with State Department. They don't care whether we're out here living or dying. They you know, chances are they don't care. So we're out here sailing around the world, and there's probably one less person they got to worry about. So great question though, and thanks for watching the show, Mike. Next question is from Matthew Melton. Do you have a depth finder on your dinghy, and do you use it much for fish? That is a piece of kit I would not ever go without out here doing what we do. I have a chart plotter on the dinghy with a depth sounder, and it has the fish finder on it, and I use that thing constantly out here. People, you know, say, oh, you don't need all that gear. I love it. I use it. It is a great piece of useful kit out here on the water. We use it to recon you know, cuts in the reef where we got to take the big boat through. If I know I got to stage somewhere in an early morning and I don't have good light to get through a reef, the day before I'll take the dinghy out and chart a path out through the reef and have my tracks on the chart plotter, pop that nav card out, stick it in my chart plotter on my boat, and just follow that line out in the dark, and I know I'm going to be safe.
We also have to maneuver our way out of here tomorrow on the boat. So Keith is marking where the bombies are, so that maybe we won't hit them tomorrow in the big boat.
A lot of people take their phones with them and use Navionics, and they're worried about getting wet and getting all that stuff wet. Well, I don't like messing with that. I also have a VHF installed on my VHF radio installed on my dinghy, so I don't have to carry a handheld with me anymore. And those are just two pieces of kit that just make it's something you use all the time, and it's just so worth having. And so, yeah, great question. And I would not go around the oceans without a chart plotter in my dinghy. There's just no way in the world I'd do that. Thanks for the question, and I appreciate that, Matthew. Next one is from James Billington. Just curious if charts tell you what type of bottom you're anchoring in, sand, rock, mud, clay, etc. And if not, how do you find out? James, that's another good question. Most of the time, you can find that information from places like cruising guides, and sometimes on the charts it'll say, or there's user input on some of the Navionics chart where people have been there and they've uploaded their data to Navionics, and it's been put there. But one of the best ways to find out now is companies like Predict Wind. They have a place called Local Knowledge, and sailors like us and all the different sailors out there in the world are updating the database on Local Knowledge, and you can find out anything you want to find out there from what the anchoring was like, wind protection, did we drag, how was it to get in there, pictures of the anchorage. So there's really good information out there coming in the technology that's available today, besides cruising guides, that is way, way good. So great question, and I hope that answered it for you. Next one is Mr. Kevin Berger. In a previous episode, they were thinking of going to the Maldives. If they go that far northwest, will they be able to keep going west, and can they get back to Australia and Indo? Well, Kevin, we have been asking ourselves that very question over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it looks like we are going to the Maldives in the next 3 or 4, 5 weeks. And so here's what we found out. The Maldives are centered just perfectly where we can sail back to Thailand, Phuket, Indonesia, the Andaman Islands. We can go right back there, downwind, 1,500 miles. Now, obviously, we can't go during cyclone season because they do get some tropical depressions and tropical storms up there, even cyclones, in between Sri Lanka and Phuket. So you've got to go in the right season, but it's all downwind sailing, and it's easy 1,500 miles back to Phuket. So once we get to the Maldives, if we decide Indo opens back up and they loosen up their COVID restrictions, maybe we'll make it back that way. If we don't, we've got the option of going to Tanzania, Kenya, Madagascar when the southwest and the northwest monsoons are in the right position, and we can sail that way just as easy. So the Maldives looks like for us is going to be perfect planning during these times of COVID, because it has become quite complicated. The Maldives don't experience any hurricanes. Now they do get storms up there. They get a lot of big squalls that can produce some serious 50, 60 knot winds, but there's several anchorages up there that are good, and there's a good marine up there that we're looking forward to checking it out. So I hope that answers your question, Kevin. That was a great question. And before I go, if you guys like the show, if you like what you're seeing, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Show everybody out there, a couple of rednecks out here sailing along the water. As always, Mr. David Walker and Melissa Walker, I look forward to seeing you guys and all you other people out there on the water.